Imagine, if you can, the sheer weight of the world resting on the shoulders of a single man. Not a god, not a monster, just a man. It is the year 175 AD. The Roman Empire is stretching, breaking, groaning under the pressure of 1,000 different fractures. To the north, the barbarian hordes are smashing against the borders like an endless tide. Inside the cities, the Antonine plague is rotting the empire from within, turning the streets of Rome into a quiet, terrified graveyard. Corpses are piled high in the carts, and the smell of death hangs heavy in the air. And standing in the center of the storm is Marcus Aurelius. He is not sitting on a golden throne in a warm palace. He is in the mud. He is in the freezing cold of the Danube frontier, surrounded by gray skies and the metallic taste of blood. He is 53 years old. He is sick. He is tired. He has not slept properly in years. And yet, he is the only thing holding civilization together. History remembers him as a philosopher king, the last of 5 good emperors. But on this specific day, amidst the fog and the cold, he is about to face something far sharper than a Germanic sword. He is about to face heartbreak. News travels slowly in the ancient world. It moves by horse, by ship, by whisper. But when the news finally reaches the emperor's tent, it hits with the force of a hammer. The message comes from the east, from the sun-drenched lands of Syria and Egypt. It is a land of wealth, of grain, of heat, a stark contrast to the frozen hell Marcus is currently living in. The message is simple, and it is devastating. Avidius Cassius has declared himself emperor. Pause for a moment and understand what this means. Avidius Cassius was not some random usurper. He was not a stranger. He was Marcus's most trusted general, his right hand, his friend. While Marcus held the line in the freezing north, he had given Cassius total control over the east. He trusted him with the wealth of Egypt. He trusted him with the loyalty of the legions. He trusted him with his life. Rumors had started to swirl that Marcus was dead, that the sickness had finally taken the emperor. And instead of mourning his friend, instead of verifying the truth, Avidius Cassius saw an empty throne, and he lunged for it. He put on the purple. He accepted the cheers of the crowds in Alexandria. He seized the grain supply, effectively holding the throat of Rome in his hands. Panic instantly swept through the capital. The senators in Rome were terrifyingly aware of the history of civil wars. They remembered the blood. They remembered the purges. They declared Cassius a public enemy. They began to prepare for the end. Everyone expected war. Everyone expected rage. Because that is what emperors do, isn't it? When they are betrayed, they burn the world down. They execute the families of the traitors. They mount heads on spikes. They unleash a river of blood to wash away the insult. But Marcus Aurelius was not like other men in his tent. By the flickering light of a single oil lamp, the emperor sat in silence. He did not scream. He did not throw the table across the room. He did not call for the executioner. He simply exhaled. He opened his journal, the private notes that we now know as meditations. And he looked at the situation not with the eyes of a wounded king, but with the eyes of a stoic. He realized that anger would solve nothing. He realized that panic would only destroy the empire faster than the barbarians ever could. He looked at this betrayal, this knife in his back, and he decided to do something that no one in the history of power had ever done before. He decided to forgive. But the soldiers outside his tent, they were not philosophers. They were warriors. They were angry. They wanted blood. They heard the news that their beloved emperor had been betrayed by a greedy general in the comfortable east. While they were dying in the freezing mud, the legions were ready to march. They were ready to tear Avidius Cassius apart limb from limb. So Marcus gathered them, thousands of hardened men, standing in the cold, waiting for the order to kill. Marcus stepped up to the podium. He looked frail. His face was lined with age and sickness, but his eyes were clear. He raised his hand for silence, and he spoke. He told them that there would be no celebration in this war. He told them that if it were possible, he would have invited Cassius to sit down with him. He said, and listen to these words. He said, "If the danger were only to myself, I would gladly have yielded the struggle. He told his men that he would have given the empire to Cassius willingly, without a drop of bloodshed, if the Senate and the people believed that Cassius would be a better ruler for common good. He told them that he did not want revenge. He wanted a mirror. He wanted to show the world that loyalty and honor still existed. He gave strict orders to the army. "Do not harm him," he said. "If we capture him, I want him alive." Marcus had a plan that terrified his advisors more than the war itself. He planned to capture the man who stole his throne, the man who betrayed his friendship, and he planned to pardon him. He wanted to look Cassius in the eye and forgive him, to show the world that a man can be betrayed and yet remain unharmed in his soul. "The best revenge," Marcus wrote, "is to be unlike him who performed the injury." The legions marched. The civil war that threatened to tear the world apart began to move. Marcus traveled east, not as a conqueror, but as a father coming to discipline a wayward son. But fate, as it often does, had a different ending in mind. You see, a traitor creates a world of treachery. By breaking his oath to Marcus, Avidius Cassius had shown his own men that oaths meant nothing. He had built his house on sand. And as a massive army of Marcus Aurelius approached, as the ground shook with the footsteps of the loyal legions, the officers under Cassius began to sweat. They realized they had backed the wrong horse. They realized that the old, dying philosopher was actually coming for them with the full might of Rome. Fear turned to conspiracy. Conspiracy turned to action. It was a centurion, a man whose name history has barely bothered to record, who ended the dream of Avidius Cassius. While Cassius was walking, perhaps dreaming of the throne, perhaps worrying about the horizon, he was cut down, assassinated by his own men. The very treachery he used to rise became the weapon that ended him. The war was over before it began. 3 months. That was all it lasted. The head of Avidius Cassius was severed from his body. His officers packed it in a box, hoping to present it to Marcus as a gift, hoping to buy their own safety with the blood of their leader. When the box arrived at the emperor's camp, the soldiers cheered. They wanted to see the face of the traitor. They wanted to spit on it. They wanted Marcus to hold it up high and laugh in triumph. But when they brought the head to Marcus, he did not smile. He did not cheer. He turned away. He covered his face. He refused to look at it. He wept, not for the loss of his throne, because he never lost it, but for the loss of his friend, and for the loss of the opportunity to show mercy. He said, "I have been deprived of the greatest prize of victory, the chance to forgive a man who has wronged me." This is the moment that defines a man. Most conquerors are defined by who they killed. Marcus Aurelius is defined by who he refused to kill. But the story does not end there. The conspiracy ran deep. There were letters, hundreds of letters, correspondence between Cassius and senators in Rome, letters from governors, from wealthy merchants, from other generals, a paper trail of treason that implicated dozens, perhaps hundreds of the most powerful men in the empire. The advisors brought these letters to Marcus. They were excited. "Here," they said, "here is the list of your enemies. Here are the names of everyone who doubted you. We can purge them all. We can confiscate their wealth. We can secure your power forever." Imagine the temptation. To know exactly who smiles to your face but holds a knife behind their back. To have the legal justification to destroy them all. It is the ultimate fantasy of power. Marcus took the bundle of letters. He felt the weight of them in his hands. The parchment was thick, tied with leather. He looked at the fire burning in the center of the camp. The flames licked at the cold air, hungry and bright. He knew that if he opened those letters, he would never sleep peacefully again. He knew that he would have to become a butcher. He knew that fear would rule Rome, not justice. So, without breaking the seal, without reading a single name, he threw the letters into the fire. He watched them burn. He watched the secrets turn to ash. He watched the names of his enemies curl up in smoke and drift away into the night sky. He chose ignorance over vengeance. He chose peace over security. He told the Senate, "Let no more blood be shed. Let the banished return. Let the property be restored. I want this reign to be free from the stain of execution. It is hard to comprehend this kind of strength. It is easy to be tough. It is easy to be cruel. But to be powerful, absolute, and yet to remain kind, that is a strength that terrified the ancients, and it should humble us today. Marcus Aurelius returned to Rome, not to parade his severed heads, but to a quiet city. He had saved the empire not by destroying his enemies, but by refusing to become like them. He went back to his journals, back to his thoughts, back to the lonely burden of being the only adult in a room full of children. He wrote a line that still echoes through the corridors of time, a line that perhaps he whispered to himself as he watched those letters burn. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. He understood something that we often forget. That betrayal only hurts us if we let it change our character. If we become bitter, if we become cruel, if we lose our trust in humanity because of the actions of one person, then the traitor has won. They have taken something far more valuable than a throne. They have taken our soul. Marcus kept his soul. He kept his quiet mind. In a world of noise, of chaos, of plague and war, he remained a fortress of reason. He died a few years later, alone again on the frontier. But he died with a clean conscience. He died knowing that when the world gave him every reason to be a monster, he chose to remain a man. And that is why we still remember him, not for the lands he conquered, but for the battles he won against himself. The silence of the snowy Danube fades away. The marble statues crumble. The Roman Empire is dust. But the voice of the Philosopher King, calm, steady, and forgiving, that voice speaks forever.